Here's a bit of an update on the gay uprising against Dave Chappelle.
I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
Dave Chappelle is getting canceled for this joke.
Like
Let's watch it again. All right, so let's check out Dave Chappelle and his joke that's causing people to say his job should be lost, his career should be done, and all sorts of stuff. Let's see what all the fuss is about.
And the only thing that got me out of that space was a comedian friend of mine, the late, great Norm Macdonald. That's right. Shout out to Norm. And what Norm did, which I'll never forget, is he knew that I was the
I'm going to say this.
Jim Carrey fan in the world. Now, I'm not the biggest Jim Carrey fan in the world. Now, I'm not going to go all into it, but Jim Carrey is talented in a way that you can't practice or rehearse. What a God-given talent. I was fascinated with him. And Norm knew that. And he called me up and he goes, Dave, he says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, fuck, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. Yes, and Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life. That's Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that. When I said cut, this nigga was still Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey. And everyone said, no! Call him Andy. I didn't understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. He's just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello. Andy? Now, everyone, in hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed. Because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this nigga was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. But he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
Okay, so you guys have the full context. Here's the other joke that he made that's causing people to go crazy.
God forbid I ever go to jail. But if I do, I hope it's in California. Because as soon as the judge sentenced me, I'll be like, Your Honor, before you sentence me, I just want the court to know I identify as a woman. Send me to women's jail. And as soon as I get in there, you know what I'm gonna be doing? Give me a fruit cocktail, bitch, before I knock your motherfucking teeth out. I'm a girl just like you, bitch. Come over here and suck this girl. God, don't make me explain myself. I'm a girl.
Dave is like a beast with it. All right, now this is what's been going on in the country. For those of you who don't know, there are actual stories like this.
Look how ugly that guy is.
In women's prison saying they identify as a woman and impregnating women in women's prison. So he's not even really telling a joke. He's just like reporting the news of what happened. Here's a news report about that same situation. He just told a joke.
2 female inmates are pregnant after they had sex with another inmate at the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women in Clinton. That's the Department of Corrections. Last year, Edna Mahan began housing transgender inmates who identify as female.
In California, biological male criminals are allowed to be housed in female prisons if they identify as women.
Why aren't more women standing up and saying no to this?
Organization, which is in direct contact with inmates and staff, tells NTD that at least one woman in Central California Women's Facility is pregnant as a result of the male inmates. Because pregnancy is private health data, the reports cannot be verified with the prison.
Some of the men have been rounded up and put in segregation on the yard where the woman who is supposedly pregnant. So they've taken 3 of them and put them in administrative segregation.
Lauren Adams is Wolf's legal counsel. She says several weeks ago, the prison began giving out condoms and providing information about inmates' options if they get pregnant. At the time, Wolf called the new resources a tacit admission by officials that women should expect to be raped when housed in prison with men. Where all sex is considered non-consensual by default within the system.
Why aren't more women standing up to
Men and
this?
women who are in confinement can't consent to sex. It will be a non-consensual act. So essentially, these women are being blanked by other men in the system. And I think I agree with their assessment that the reason why they're giving out condoms and these pamphlets to tell people about, avoiding pregnancy is because they know the game is going to be played.
It's going to happen.
Human nature. So now allowing women into the system, and Dave Chappelle now making a joke saying, "Hey, I want to now be a part of that system. I'm going to identify as a woman so I can take advantage of being put in a women's prison rather than being put in an all-male prison." It's funny, but you can't make jokes about things like this anymore. So let's hear the backlash on why Dave Chappelle is now a transphobic monster for essentially just repeating the news.
There is something genuinely depressing about watching Dave Chappelle,
I showed you guys
who is
this
one of, if not
yesterday, I
the best
believe.
comic of our lifetime, reduce himself to the guy who makes trans jokes. And when Dave Chappelle first started telling these jokes, I understood where it came from. Now, I didn't personally find it funny, and it's not because I was offended. It's just because the jokes themselves are not funny. But
I thought they were.
I sort of understood where it came from because Dave Chappelle is an aging comic who built his career off of being relatable and being kind of like an everyday man and telling relatable stories about relatable people that we as
why
average
he's so
people can
popular
really
to
relate
this
to.
day.
But because he is rich and elite and has been for multiple decades, he has lost that everyday touch, and his life and his stories and his experiences are no longer relatable to people like us. And so because of that, he has to fall back on shock value. And he's not the only comic who does this. Ricky Gervais does it, Louis C.K. does it, Chris Rock does it, because these men specifically are aging and they're elite and they just don't have the touch anymore.
Oh, do you hear your feelings, sweetheart?
Go the fuck outside and touch some motherfucking grass. What is your obsession with trans? I'm 100% convinced. 100% convinced.
I love
that
what
some
Nate
trans girl out there
says at
is
the end
sipping
here.
on some mezcal right now, thinking about how she broke his heart into pieces. Because what? We're always in your mouth, bro. Because I think you want us in your mouth. Happy New Year. See y'all later. Dave Chappelle, get a fucking life.
So at this point, it's giving client. I don't know what y'all.
I think
Dave Chappelle.
what Nate says at the end here about this is more important than hearing this last girl go off. Girl, guy, whatever it is.
Get him some help.
Okay, I don't know what the outrage is for. I think these people are being ridiculously silly, and I think they have issues themselves. But even without that, the first joke, I thought was like a nonsense. It's just okay, he tells how this guy's pretending to be Andy Kaufman, and everybody got to treat him that sense. He says that's how he feels about, this whole trans thing. Okay, fine, ha, funny, right? I thought it was funny. I thought it was okay. Ha, 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 ha. You see somebody who you know is a guy, but you have to treat them as a woman. That's the analog there. Okay, fine. You think that's offensive? That's fine. You don't have to laugh at that, but it's a joke. The second joke, I think he just literally could have just read the headline.
Look how ugly that guy
And
is.
this headline says, "Your man identifies as a woman gets put into women's jail and pregnant women." Now,
Be like a promotion to ugly dudes. Go to prison, you'll get laid.
saying that's an issue, that could either be a news report or a joke, because it's the same thing. But I think the real issue here is clear. Is that they want to have this protected status where no one can make fun of their interactions or their perceptions of trans people. If they're not saying that it's all good and it's all roses, then you should lose your job and be canceled and have those consequences, which is ridiculous because it's antithetical to free speech. It's almost like they're saying they don't want to be treated like everyone else, but yet they want to be treated like everyone else. Let me explain. All other groups, you can make these type of jokes and not have any issues, right? And they'll be funny. But with the trans community, you make a joke about them and you should be fired. But if their goal is to be treated just like everyone else, to be integrated in society, so when you see a trans woman or a trans man, it's no different than seeing a real woman or a real man, right? It's absolutely the same. Then you would want to integrate everything. You want to integrate the fact that they
Yeah,
just get to
into
make fun of them,
comedy,
integrate
your
the fact that
society.
there shouldn't be any difference. But by
Bounce
making
off,
this
yeah.
such a difference, when you can't make fun of us, then you're automatically telling us we have to treat you differently. We have to treat you separately than we treat everyone else. And I didn't think that was the goal. I think what Dave Chappelle's doing is just saying, hey, it's fair game. The trans community is fair game. The black
That's
community is
it.
fair game. The white community is fair game. When he makes jokes of
And I'll end with this. And take this to heart. You can either take the joke or you can be the joke.